Hey, peace, world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. What is this? Late morning wood. Just some bite down boxing talk content. Uh, just a reaction to it's a article up on I believe it's on the PBC website. It's an article by an interview of Jarrett Hurd, former unified super welterweight champion, and it's by Lim Satterfield, and just kind of confirms some things. I mentioned this. I attended the fight back in May between Jarrett Hurd's homecoming fight against Julian Williams, and after the fight, I mentioned this on the Rope a Dope podcast. I called into that. I don't always want to be first with something. I'd rather be right with it. So I tried to put it out there on the level that I understood it at. But and I don't have access to get back to Jarrett Hurd. I'm not in the DMV area. I can't make it to Hillcrest Gym and get I do have his phone number, but it never works. But anyway, got a couple of notes. He basically, it was just, the aftermath of the fight. Where are you at? What's your thoughts on what happened? What went wrong? Etc. 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 And he said that he didn't use his head. Oh, let me start back. I basically said that I was concerned that the team, there were some fissures in the team and the unity in the team. And I mentioned that an individual from the team came out after the fight in the back and was like kind of washing his hands of the situation. And I was standing there with Blue Blood Sports and Barbershop Conversations, Fred. Everybody knows them. And the trainer, his head trainer, Ernesto Rodriguez, walks up and, basically threw Hurd under the bus. And I was like, what the hell? And he basically was like, the onus wasn't on him. The loss and looking the way that he looked wasn't on him. And I didn't know what was going to happen with this team moving forward, but, I knew it was going to require a heart-to-heart, man-to-man conversation, and, they see where it could go, but would they have it? Well, lo and behold, I don't watch a whole lot of stuff on here for different reasons. And I guess there was an interview out there where Rodriguez put this out there, his position on things. So anyway, getting into the article, Jarrett Hurd said that, he didn't use his head during the fight. Evident. He said he admitted that he didn't really have a backup strategy. His thought was pretty much pressure. He would basically pressure or use his pressure to wear Williams down and possibly stop him late. He mentioned that that Nesto was out talking about he would stop Julian Williams in the 10th round. And then he said that he tried too hard, too fast to get back into the fight, and said that, in previous fights and his big wins, he did have, it might have looked like he didn't have plans or strategy, a game plan, but he said in this one, he really had no strategy. He really had no game plan. And so he alluded or mentioned earlier in the article that his corner was a mess on fight night. It was all over the place. And I heard some things, actually, when I was on the Rope a Dope podcast during my call, the host, Christopher Carlson, mentioned that the cut man was all over he looked amateur. And then some other things, were happening in the corner that you typically don't see in a big time fight. But that right there, to not have a game plan for a hometown fight, a homecoming fight, for it to be a unification fight, You know, to have all the Redskins band, you know, for the ring walk and all of this other stuff, the custom, you know, the nice fight kit, you know, the extravagant fight kit. Me being a Redskins fan, I mean, I'm loving all of it. It's in the DMV area, you know, it was dope. But you definitely could see that the focus was on everything, and the attention to detail was there on all this other stuff. Supposedly, some individuals were getting haircuts in the room. That's what Stephen Breadman Edwards went back and relayed to Julian Williams. The brothers over there getting haircuts. So attention to detail in all of these other areas of the night, but then there's no game plan for an opponent like Julian Williams, who had shown his mettle and grit, and had stood tall all fight week, and you know, gave you from the way that he conducted himself, it was easy to infer that he was there for business. And you have not that you're gonna get a game plan on fight week, you know, but to have no game plan. Ernesto also commented to Hurd that, you know, he was doing too much access to the media, was too many voices in the camp. Jarrett Hurd also mentioned in his article that he was losing too much weight. That was one of Nesto's complaints. I don't know what that's about, because he came in like right under the 154 weight limit. Maybe earlier in the camp than normal, he was below where he thought he should have been or something. I don't know. But I mean, as big as Jarrett Hurd is, I mean, weight at super welterweight is going to be something that they have to monitor closely. So anyway, so based on on what was said in front of me and Blue Blood and barbershop conversations, you know, Nesto just came out when Hurd came back from his vacation after the fight and had a one-on-one talk with Nesto. This kind of confirmed everything that was, and filled in the blanks or connected the dots to what I didn't know standing there hearing Nesto say what he said. But he said he didn't like, you know, how the camp was handled. He didn't like the lead up to the fight. And gradually, as it got to fight night, Nesto said that in his interview that he did, he said that Hurd later saw while he was on vacation. He said that, Ernesto said that he lost belief in the fact that, or belief in Hurd's ability to win the fight. And, you know, that kind of hurt Hurd's, you know, he was a little sensitive to that. And he said, you know, he puts his trust and he entrusts his life to his trainer when he goes into every fight. And, you know, it was like, how could you let me go out there like that? So obviously, if there was some bad communication, some poor communication leading up to the fight, and it showed up on fight night. I think there was some moments in the fight where Jarrett Hurd could have fought his way back into the fight. And, you know, he made it close on some of the cards, or at least one of them. And, you know, he was at home. So, and watching it in real time, you know, he could have taken a half step backwards, in my opinion, because he was losing the inside game terribly. But he could have backed up maybe and, you know, worked from the mid-range and outside a little bit better. Although, you know, Julian seemed to have an answer for everything that night. But like I said, watching it in person, I mean, you saw it on TV or you were there, I thought there was some real estate where Hurd was having greater success, and maybe he could have had a you know, prolonged success at that range. But he kept moving inside, and all the momentum that he built up, you know, Julian would take it back. So to close that article, he just mentioned that, you know, he'd be looking for a new trainer. It'll be interesting to see how that, you know, who they select. Is it a Barry Hunter who's right there in the area, or will he go out here to one of these guys that have, you know, the storied reputations and a huge stable of fighters and whatnot? So that's it, man. I'm gonna shut this off under 10 minutes.